You can be better than yesterday, one day at a time. Life has a way of testing every single one of us. You know what I'm talking about. Those moments when everything feels impossible, when you're staring at that mountain of work and your brain is screaming at you to quit, when you're 3 hours into studying and you can barely keep your eyes open, when you're halfway through a workout and your legs feel like concrete. Here's the thing though, most of us give up way too early. We listen to that voice in our head that says we've had enough, that we should call it quits, that we've reached our limit. But what if I told you that voice is lying to you? What if there was a way to push through those mental barriers and tap into reserves of strength you didn't even know you had? Today, I want to share with you something that changed how I think about resilience completely. It's called the cookie jar mindset, and it's going to revolutionize the way you handle tough situations. This isn't some feel-good motivational fluff. This is a practical mental tool that you can use right now to become mentally tougher than you ever thought possible. But before we dive into how it works, let me tell you about the man who created this method. His name is David Goggins, and calling him tough would be an understatement. We're talking about someone who completed over 60 ultramarathons and triathlons, someone who once did over 4,000 pull-ups in 17 hours to break a world record. This guy has pushed his body and mind to limits that most people can't even imagine. And the crazy part, he wasn't always this way. Goggins discovered this technique during one of the most brutal challenges of his life, and it completely transformed how he approaches mental toughness. Picture this: you decide you want to raise money for a cause you believe in, so you sign up for one of the world's most grueling races. The only problem? You haven't trained, you haven't run more than a mile in 6 months, and the race is in 3 days. Sounds insane, right? That's exactly what Goggins did. He needed to complete a 100-mile race to qualify for an even tougher challenge, 100 miles. That's like running 4 marathons back-to-back without stopping. And remember, he had zero preparation. The first few miles felt manageable. His military training had kept him in decent shape, so he figured he could push through. But around mile 25, reality started hitting. His mind began questioning everything. Can I actually do this? What was I thinking? Maybe I should just stop now before I really hurt myself. But something inside him refused to quit. Mile after mile, he kept moving forward. His thighs started feeling like they were filled with lead. Every step sent shockwaves of pain through his body. His form got sloppy, his pace slowed down, but he didn't stop. Then came mile 70. 70 miles of pure suffering with no training whatsoever. His body was breaking down. He was bleeding, exhausted, and in more pain than he'd ever experienced. He sat down and seriously considered quitting. This was one of the lowest moments of his entire life. He kept asking himself why he was putting himself through this torture. Why didn't he just give up like any rational person would? That's when something incredible happened. Instead of focusing on his current pain, he started thinking about his past. He remembered other times in his life when he'd faced impossible odds and somehow found a way through. Moments when he'd surprised himself with his own resilience. Times when he'd accomplished things that seemed completely out of reach. As he sat there in agony, he began mentally collecting these memories. Each one gave him a tiny spark of energy. Each victory from his past reminded him that he was capable of more than he realized. These memories became his fuel when his body had nothing left to give. That's when the cookie jar was born. It's the idea that we all have a collection of past victories, challenges we've overcome, and moments when we've proven to ourselves that we're tougher than we think. And when we're facing our darkest moments, we can reach into that jar and pull out exactly the motivation we need. Now you might be thinking, this sounds great for someone like David Goggins, but what about the rest of us? What if your biggest challenge isn't running 100 miles? What if it's something completely different? Here's the beautiful thing about the cookie jar mindset. It works for any situation where you want to give up. Whether you're studying for a difficult exam, working late on a project that matters to you, trying to learn a new skill, or pushing through a tough workout, the principle remains exactly the same. Your mind will always try to convince you to take the easy way out. It's designed to keep you safe and comfortable, but comfort zones don't build character. They don't help you grow, and they definitely don't help you achieve the things you really want in life. The cookie jar gives you a way to fight back against that voice of surrender. It's your personal collection of proof that you're stronger than you think you are. But how do you actually build your own cookie jar? How do you create this mental arsenal that you can draw from when times get tough? The process is simpler than you might think, but it requires some honest self-reflection. Start by grabbing a piece of paper or opening a notes app on your phone. You're going to make an inventory of every single victory you've ever had. And I mean everything. Don't just write down the obvious stuff like graduating from school or getting that promotion. Think deeper than that. Remember when you were terrified to give a presentation, but you did it anyway? That goes in the jar. The time you stuck with learning guitar, even when your fingers hurt and the chords sounded terrible? Cookie. When you finally worked up the courage to ask someone out, regardless of what they said? Another cookie for the jar. Maybe you conquered your fear of driving on the highway. Maybe you finished a book that was really challenging. Maybe you got through a difficult conversation with a family member. These might seem like small things, but they're proof that you can do hard things when you need to. Don't forget about the obstacles you've overcome either. Depression, anxiety, loss of a loved one, financial struggles, health challenges. Every single time you've been knocked down and gotten back up, that's evidence of your resilience. Every time you faced something that felt impossible and somehow made it through, that's a cookie waiting to be used. Even the tiniest victories count. Did you do the dishes when you really didn't want to? That required you to override your brain's resistance. Did you take out the trash on a day when you felt completely drained? Same thing. These small acts of pushing through mental resistance are training your willpower muscle. The key is to be thorough. Most people underestimate how many victories they actually have. We tend to minimize our achievements or forget about them entirely. But when you sit down and really think about it, you'll be surprised by how much evidence you have of your own strength. Once you've got your list, you need to understand how to use it properly. This isn't about reading through your accomplishments and feeling good about yourself. That's nice, but it won't help you when you're in the middle of a struggle. The cookie jar works best when you're actively facing resistance, when your mind is telling you to quit, when your motivation has disappeared, when everything in you wants to give up. That's when you reach into the jar. Pick one specific memory that resonates with your current situation. If you're struggling with a difficult project at work, remember that time you pushed through and completed something challenging in school. If you're trying to stick with a new exercise routine, think about another habit you successfully built in the past. Don't just think about what you accomplished. Feel it. Remember how it felt to push through that resistance. Remember the satisfaction you experienced when you proved to yourself that you were capable of more than you thought. Let that emotional memory fuel you in the present moment. This process takes practice. At first, your mind will resist going to these memories. It's much easier to focus on how hard things are right now, how tired you feel, how much you want to quit. But that's exactly why you need to be intentional about reaching into your cookie jar. The cookie jar isn't just about remembering good times, it's about proving to yourself over and over again that you have what it takes to push through when things get difficult. Every time you use this technique successfully, you're adding another cookie to your collection. Every victory, no matter how small, becomes ammunition for the next battle. Your mind will always try to convince you that you've reached your limit. But now you have a weapon to fight back with. You have proof that you're tougher than you think you are. So the next time you want to give up, reach into your cookie jar and let your past victories fuel your future success. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll dive even deeper into optimizing your mental performance. Click the like button and subscribe to the channel for more.